1. I need to vent. For the second time in my very short 7-year career as a line cook, my boss promised not only me but the entire crew raises, and then up and quit within 2 weeks after. Any credibility you may have as a cool boss, or any good memories or lessons you may have shared with your cooks, immediately goes out the window when you screw over your entire crew for selfish reasons. When I was 17, it was a very good year. I got a job as a fry cook, and was immediately commended by the owner for starting off strong, and that I would get an extra $1 for every position I train up. He sold the restaurant 2 weeks later. Now, I'm 23, onto the fine dining gigs downtown, hotels and country clubs and the likes. Got myself involved in a bit of a passion project back in November. Opened a new kosher joint, if I recall correctly, the only kosher joint in the city under some Israeli super chef. Big whoop. The whole crew is extremely tight-knit. We all hang out outside of work, and I can honestly say it's been a pleasure meeting and growing with these people, the good and the bad apples. The head chef introduced himself as a very lax guy, who makes it very easy to work with him, gave us all a great pitch on how he understands human desire and quality of life outside the kitchen is very largely based on work quality inside the kitchen. I was personally hired at a starting wage of $20, which was much lower than any other jobs floating around on Indeed by about $3 or $4, as this was smack dab in the middle of season in a busy town close to Miami. I and all of us other cooks took the job purely out of interest, and the promise that the kitchen gets tips, yeah, I know, when the restaurant opens for service, and that after 90 days, we can all get our own little money talk with him. Over the opening of the restaurant and the coming months, he was extremely easygoing as promised, and showed true dedication to improving the skill set of each and every single line cook. He remembers stuff about the way I work like no other boss ever has, for the sole purpose of catching improvements, no matter how long it took to make them, rather than complain about the same mistake. It's an open kitchen with a bit of performance and show aspect. Think hibachi, but less engagement and flipping stuff. So the kitchen gets 20% of the split tips, equating to like a sexy extra $2.50 weekly on average. One of our post-shift shindigs at the end of the week, the chef reminds us of the raises he promised us upon hiring. And after my own little chat outside the next day, he gave me a $2 raise on the condition I stop leaving the grill for 10 minutes to go smoke a bowl in the back. Save it for after service. And then if I float down to saute to help them when they're in the weeds, and we can talk in another couple of months about another 2 bones. Pretty standard line cook stuff, but I was ecstatic to get more money at a job I already dig. Everything at this job was gravy in the sense of linear progression. My work had a purpose, and I would either be rewarded by literal money or genuinely uplifting compliments on how my brunoise onions are getting better that I couldn't expect from any other boss. Then, after the next week, my head chef has been out sick for the 3rd day in a row, and the check I got was still a flat hourly $20. 2 days later, and management informs us that the chef decided he won't be joining us anymore. What the hell? Okay, well, surely there must be an error in terms of the money I should have got. Apparently not a single line cook who had talked to him about their 90-day raise got it. And as we have collected from tidbits and details we have shared with each other regarding the chef's disappearance, the dude just up and left over an insurance check he got from some hurricane smashing his house, and he didn't say a thing to anyone about anything. 14 line cooks all angry because this dude just selfishly decided to retire on a whim. I was supposed to have my money at the start of March. I just now finally got to pull the GM aside and honor my raise, but she kept giving me this suspicious side-eye and mentioning, "Chef never said anything about a raise." Now I'm in this mental place where I feel like my progression as a cook has completely halted. Harsu, that nobody took seriously, who was working his first supervisory position, is power-tripping in the 2 weeks he's been allowed to oversee operations, until a new head and exec is hired. Everyone has been forced to stay on an hour and a half after close, and help each other, leave at the same time, which means clean up for people who want to milk the clock as controlling hours isn't part of his managerial duties. Yet he would rather keep us all here late as hell. He is the final mouthpiece of the kitchen before the GM in terms of reports, so I highly doubt the GM who gave me my raise will ever hear "Ya boy MC was killing it tonight." Probably just negative stuff. Yet, despite running negative reports up and down the ladder, the guy has seemingly zero authoritative power. So simple complaints about the operation of the machine and co-workers doing ABC, whatever you would want your boss to handle in the kitchen, is going completely unaddressed for about 3 weeks now. So yeah, I just got a raise tonight. I'm already making about $1,100 before taxes without it as a regular chef de partie, but I could give a flying crap about this job anymore. It reminds me of a scene from Office Space where the main character is explaining how he is literally only motivated to just not get fired, and not a single other thing. Thanks for listening. If this is happening to you, I'm sorry and I feel your pain. If you're an aspiring chef looking to manage a crew, don't leave them hanging with nothing but the most recent memory of you being a giant lie. And if you've done this in the past as a supervisor, you can go screw yourself if your wife doesn't peg you already. 2. Hello crew, I'm Star and I'm 23 years old. And this past October I recently got my first server job at this brand new breakfast place. And to say this has been a roller coaster of emotions has been an understatement. Big highs and lows. I worked in fast food for 4 years and grocery and retail for 3 years before my current job. While it's absolutely not my first run through with food service, it's my first time with this sort of gig. I absolutely love the aspect of talking to people, which was something I lacked in my other 2 jobs. So when this opened up, I was so unbelievably excited. The owners seemed wonderful, and some of my co-workers turned into my bestest friends. Even those who left, I still talk to them every day. I work as a barista and floor waitress. I still have a lot of issues involving forgetfulness, but I managed to make my way up with ease to the point where I was even offered a supervisor position. I even learned kitchen duties for when they're short-staffed, so I could be the avatar of the place. Then things started to change. One of the owners that I work with is a total sweetheart. She works so hard, and me and her make a great team. She is my biggest advocate. However, the other owner, also her partner, which makes things messy, is completely hot and cold. He works the kitchen. I also happen to close a lot with him on nights when it's just me on the floor, since our place is small enough for just one waitress most nights. Sometimes he's so full of love and understanding, but he has such massive trust issues it's hard to understand him. Ever since I started, he's been saving a lot. Almost all my receipts, marking everything I do incorrectly. A wrong discount here, a forgotten upsell there, and now after 6 months, it's gotten to the point I can't handle anything on my own. I can't void items off my own checks, check out gift certificates, transfer tickets, or even change the music when someone complains without his permission. I guess I would understand pieces as a regular waitress, but when I got upgraded, I was given a code to be expected to do these things regardless. At the end of the week, he would text me a list of wrong tickets I have completed hours, sometimes days ago, asking what went wrong. Sometimes they would be DoorDashes that had wrong prices, which I no longer have the authority to go in and fix. He would say how much money I lost, and I would have to owe it back to them. Please check the law in your state regarding that, otherwise it's wage theft. I guess since it was a 2-person run thing, it makes sense. Food is expensive, and if it's repeated errors, I understand. But more things have now been causing me a lot of emotional turmoil. The place that used to close at 4 with me, working a regular 8 to 4, is now 8 to 8. And a lot of waitresses put up a stink since technically, we all signed up for just a daytime gig. Nobody wants to close. That's fine. I live close, so I offered to do closing shifts. But since I got this position, they want me there all the time to supervise, so I basically volunteered to do 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. shifts Tuesday through Thursday, as well as a day shift Saturday. I never wanted that, but I expressed that considering we mostly do breakfast, it seemed pointless to even be open that late. They said they see where I'm coming from, but since we get a few tables at night and changed it already online, it has to stay that way. Yeah, because it's not like they could just change it back as easily as they changed it. I get more money from it, which is fantastic, but also I'm just there all day, for most of my week, which sort of blows since a lot of the time I'm not really doing anything other than waiting around. I'm often bumped up to a minimum wage because some hours don't make enough tips. The traction isn't really their fault, our town is slow, but also, if it doesn't seem to be working, why can't we go back? I don't really get a break, but I do sit and eat regardless, so I guess that still counts. But the kicker is that despite getting that shiny new position, we never got to properly talk about it. Updated wages, manager codes, anything. So basically, I've been picking up these extra tasks, training, dealing with problems, truck orders, etc., with the same pay a regular waitress would be getting. Since I never got a code, I have been using one of the manager codes to mediate any problems me or my staff have. Turns out the store code was his code. And recently, after finding out that some of my tickets are approved under his name by default, he lost it on me. Full-on pulled me aside and yelled at me. Never acceptable to yell at an employee, no matter the reason. All because a lady changed her mind about ordering an extra side of toast. So I had to void it off, and I didn't ask him if I could do it first. How dare you! I defended myself, and I told him I'm not really sure what he is trusting me with when it comes to this position, if I still can't handle things on my own. I told him I don't get paid for all this extra effort, work doubles, and I don't even have any authority to see the mistakes I'm making, since I have to use his code to even look at them. I don't have one. I have also been called even earlier a total of 16 times since January to open the kitchen since he can't be there, so my shifts would sometimes stretch to 14 hours. I told him I understand that this is still new for him, but I feel like I'm being taken advantage of now. He said just because he let me have this extra power doesn't mean I can do whatever I want, or anything apparently, but I can't even solve my own problems. I'm not giving people free food nor taking things off because I don't feel like charging them. If I had to, I would pull him from the kitchen to do it himself. I ended up surrendering my position 2 weeks ago. Good for you. And today, after another outburst over a DoorDasher taking too long to get here, I'm at my limit. They both texted me to apologize. Even the other owner, who has done nothing but advocate for me. I feel like there is far too many things going wrong that I can't fix myself or mess up by default. I want tomorrow to be my last day, and to just cut myself loose for the sake of just saying it's not working. But I have no idea how this is supposed to go. I don't know if I'm the problem genuinely or he is. Or perhaps nobody or everyone. This is new for everyone, but yet there is no order to this chaos. No order for takeouts, ticket systems, anything. I don't even get a proper schedule in my hours day to day. There's just too much uncertainty, and I feel like I'm shelling out a lot of money because of it, as well as myself for having to owe some of it back to them. Thank you for hearing me out. What should I do? I hate to leave when it's truly just one person causing me problems, but when he's the big guy in charge, it's difficult. How should I handle it? Maybe some people have had similar experiences. Star. Hellfreezer's note, you need to leave. There's no two ways about it. The fact of the matter is, while this might be new to him, he's taking the fact that he is struggling to learn how to do this job out on you. You might be new too, but mistakes will happen as you learn. And as you say, you're not being given the authority to fix very simple common mistakes that happen in every job. Definitely check what the laws are in your state when it comes to forcing you to repay money. It's not legal in some places, it might be in yours, but if it's not, then he is stealing from you. You've got two owners who are pulling you in different directions because they're each giving you different messages. One seems to love you, the other one seems to be just making you the focus of all his frustration. And I think that's literally what it is. It's not that you're doing a bad job. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's still learning, and he's taking it out on you. It's just not fair, and you shouldn't have to put up with it. So if I were you, and you have other options, get out of there and don't look back. There will probably be begging and apologies on their part, but don't look back. 3. This happened last weekend at my serving job that I got to help pay off some debt. A couple, late 20s, came into our sit-down Asian restaurant. I got them drinks and started to take their appetizer order. The guy asked me for a piece of paper and a pen. No big deal. I just give him one of my order sheets and a spare pen. When I was walking around and working on my other tables, I heard him say something along the lines of, "Well, yeah, I have to write down everything she does wrong so I can tip right." The girl said something a little contrarian, which made me think this was one of their first dates, and she was probably surprised by this. Bet he didn't get laid that night. Later, when I was coming to refill their drinks, he said, "Oh, you're back." I was wondering. Before I reached for their drinks, I noticed a paper sitting on the table and asked what it was. It had little bulletin point notations on it. This dickweed said directly to my face, "Oh, this is your tip calculations." He was showboating to his date, and I was looking at another table. He continued on his tirade for several minutes. "Hey, you're not even paying attention. You should check in on your guests more. You don't even look like you're having a good time." All I said was, "Oh wow, that's incredibly rude and demeaning. I won't be serving you." Yes. I didn't need his $10 that damn bad. The guy looked completely dumbstruck, and the woman seemed embarrassed. The man asked what I was talking about and was starting to get irate. I just called over our manager, who was very nice. I explained the table was making me uncomfortable and I wouldn't be serving them. Then I went back into the kitchen to continue waiting on my other tables. My manager talked to me in the kitchen when she was done with the table. She was considerate, but kept asking why I wouldn't serve them. I just kept saying the man was very rude and made me uncomfortable. There's a small language barrier between us, and I didn't want to waste time during the lunch rush to try to give her a detailed explanation. When I went back out, I saw the woman berating the guy. Atta girl. She ended up walking out a little while later, and the guy followed without paying. Hope you called the cops. We could hear him screaming in the parking lot. They had only gotten a couple of egg rolls and soda at that point. I think they were just embarrassed because like 15 tables full of people were staring at them by the end of it. A couple of my other tables asked about it. I explained and they felt bad, so they tipped me a little more, which was nice, but I wasn't that bothered. I explained the whole situation to my boss the next day, how I felt degraded, and at the end of the day it wasn't much of an issue. She's been keeping an eye on me since then. A few other servers just can't understand why I would miss out on money like that, because unlike them you have some self-respect. And that as a server I should have just served them. That's how you enable that behavior. No, I'm not a performer. I live in a state where a server wage is $2.13 an hour. They better be happy I showed up at all. 4. Spent some time working for a major cruise line a while before the pandemic, when the floating cities were a fun place for a family vacation. It's everything you'd expect. As cool as seeing new places while you live where you work. A light week was an easy 65 to 70 hours. Spent time serving in the buffet, main dining rooms, and Brazilian-style steakhouse. In all honesty, unless you're paying for the specialty restaurants, you set sail to Applebee's. And your food was not clean. Ship conditions are ship conditions, as up to standard kitchens and storage was kept. Numerous nights were retrieving the rolling cabinets of actually fresh-baked and often still warm table bread, a short elevator ride up 3 decks, and we'd pull out trays of rolls and see roaches scatter. The Brazilian steakhouse was carpeted for some reason, and pieces of meat would get around into it. After major cleanings every few weeks, a rotten smell of old meat would come through the shampoo. I was once approached by a teenager and asked, "Did you find the dead rat?" As guests complained throughout the day, but we just cleaned, and we're at least 12 miles offshore of the nearest Stanley steamer for the week. Each cruise was a Saturday to Saturday, and contracts were 5-ish months on, 5 weeks off. I was serving a party section in the traditional dining room, and would get parties of 6 to 15, and sometimes break up my section if it got busy. The best way to make money was to slide a hostess enough to seat you a family from the suites with a drink package the first 2 nights, and get them to request you the rest of the week. We worked our sections as a 2-person team, a front server making recommendations, taking orders, serving drinks, and an assistant server that would run the orders and dirty dishes to and from the kitchen, up and down a hilarious escalator, course by course. I was very lucky shortly after being promoted to be partnered with an awesome assistant server. The week before my last on that contract, I was seated the coolest family of Australians. The dad was an engineer, and we brought out some of the engine room officers to chat. They drank plenty of wine and beer, and the kids were the most ridiculously polite. It was going to be a great last week before going home. But I woke up on the second day with eye pain. I had run short of my contact supply being away from home. I had been on my last pair for a bit longer than I should have. I had clumsily, drunkenly, scratched my eye before the ship taking out contacts, but always kept them clean, and assumed that's all it was. We sailors loved to drink, with the yo-ho-ho, and the swell after a night at crew bar could be tricky. But I could wear my glasses a day or two, and it's all good. Nope, I'm working the buffet at breakfast, and my eye pain gets worse and worse. By dinner, I can barely keep my bloodshot eye open, and it waters as I try to work my tables and make conversation about the islands. By the next morning, I can't stand it and go to medical after breakfast. Good old conjunctivitis. And in the traditional ant farm fashion, doctor gives me my eye drops and clears me right back to the tables. Besides my managers, only my assistant knew, and we did our best. A bottle of hand sanitizer in the server station was kept full, and hot plate serving towels used even for salads. I just pray Pink Eye doesn't make its way back to Sydney. I just told my table I ran out of contacts, and my body was seizing up to the oncoming pollen when I went home soon. Thankfully, they took really good care of both of us at the end of the week, and I must say in my time on board I only met many delightful and only one distasteful Australian. The rest of you, thank you for the Tim Tam Slam. 1. In the early 90s, not long after my husband and I married, I took a second job as a cocktail waitress at a local hotel bar. This hotel hosted a lot of conventions, so many of my customers were conventioneers from out of town. Sometimes a customer would ask me out or want my number. A few just straight up propositioned me. But once I explained I was married, most would drop the matter. One time, however, a customer wouldn't drop it. 2 conventioneers, both men in their early 30s, were seated at one of my foretops. I took their orders, and when I returned with their drinks, one of them, Jim, asked me what I was doing after work. I said I was going home to my husband. This line had always worked before, but not this time. Jim got super offended and accused me of lying. He claimed my wedding band was a decoy. I mean, if it was, dude, take the hint. I shrugged and told him it wasn't, but even if it was, it's against company policy to date customers. That seemed to irk him even more. They were shortly joined by 2 of their friends. One of the newcomers started his drink order with, "I hear you think you're too good for my friend here." I replied that I was too married for anybody other than my husband. The 4 of them then spent the next 90 minutes running my butt into the ground. Every drink order was wrong, every food dish was wrong. They deliberately made a mess, dropping fries and potato skins, sour cream side down, and ice on the floor. The entire time, they are all making terrible comments about me. Finally, $120 of bar food and booze later, they paid their bill and left without tipping. Natch. They made such a huge mess that the manager closed my station early so I could clean up. As I'm down on my hands and knees under the table to get all the food cleaned up, I noticed a small black 35mm film canister. I picked it up and gave it a little shake, expecting to hear the rattle of a roll of film. When I didn't hear anything, I popped the lid. It was packed, and I mean packed, with the stickiest, stankiest weed I'd ever seen in my young life. I closed it, slipped it into my apron, and went to the break room to put it in my locker. It took me another 20 minutes to finish cleaning up the mess these guys made. About 10 minutes after that, as I'm closing out my bank, Jim returned. He told the hostess he lost something, so she let him look around the table. As he's moving the chairs I'd just cleaned and searching the floor I'd just cleaned, he tried to catch my eye. I ignored him. After a few minutes he left. When I got home, I tossed the canister to my husband and said, "Check out this tip I got." He whooped when he saw and pulled out the kitchen food scale. It was packed so tightly it came out the canister in a single mass. It weighed in at 7 grams. We got high, boinked like bunnies, and had an absolutely amazing weekend. That weed lasted us a month. I never saw Jim again, but wherever he is, I hope he gets bent. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates episode 272. And thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button, and if you'd be so good as to subscribe. That lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video, so they should recommend it to other people. And we do like it when they do that. If you'd like to support the channel, which I would appreciate, you can do that by going over and signing up for my Patreon page for as little as $1, or even more a month if you would like. And you can buy yourself some merchandise as well. Both of those are linked in the description. My merchandise store is on Teespring. Okay, no more business today, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... We'll keep it food related because it is Spinning Plates. Do you find there comes a point in the year where you stop craving hot food and you just prefer sandwiches and cold wraps and things because the weather's warm? I do, especially as we get more into the deeper summer weather. We're lucky we're at the part of the year now in Scotland when mostly this week throughout the day the temperature's been in double digits, which is so nice. Very happy when it does that. Also means we get more sunlight, which is also nice. I do feel a bit more motivated, as I get older at least, I do feel a bit more motivated when there's more daylight. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one came from Spinning Plates 271, and it was about what you consider staples for your household, that you always have to have no matter what. With me it was rice. I think I mentioned I always need to have at least 3 bags of rice. And guys, I'm sorry to have to tell you this. I'm down to 1.5 bags. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll probably pick up more when I go out next. Yeah, I'll do that. I think I'm running low on pasta as well. And today's answer comes from Emerald Angel. For me, it's tortillas. It's a main staple growing up in a Mexican household. We always have them in stock. They can be enjoyed for breakfast, lunch, or dinner in my home. Thank you very much for your answer, Emerald Angel. And I just remembered I forgot to buy wraps when I was out last time. They're not a staple for me, but I do go through periods where I'm like, oh, I haven't had wraps for ages, so I buy that, and everything gets wrapped. It's especially good if I've made like a curry or something. Then whatever's left over the next day can get stuffed in a wrap and then shoved in my face. Sometimes with something like green veggies or spinach leaves or something. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening. And take very good care of yourself.